Hello everyone! Long time without SemiShiraKawaGata story, and very long time since the last Sickfic appeared on the channel. So why not combine the two and use the fact that it's still kinda winter, even though it doesn't look like it from the weather, and use it to my advantage. So yes, Sickfic, yay! I have no idea where I was going with this story. I will be honest. But hey. As always, special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who subscribe and watch these videos. You are keeping this channel alive and going. Thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy. The howling of storm behind their windows sounded more and more awful to Taichi's ears. Of course, he had no reason to worry. Their apartment complex was sturdy enough, and the windows held tight. But listening to the horrible sound the wind and snow managed to create was slowly straining his nerves. He shivered, huddling deeper into the blanket, though the sudden wave of cold running through his body was probably caused by something other than the association. Taichi? The only answer he managed to give was a weak whine, the cold biting deep into his muscles. Shirabu frowned slightly and laid his hand against Taichi's forehead, his expression telling Taichi his fever hadn't gone down at all. Do you want to take another painkiller? Taichi shook his head, even that small movement costing him as much energy as working out. His head was fine now, the pain dissipating about half an hour ago after torturing him for nearly 3 days. At least some good news. How he got sick in the first place, he had no idea. He was careful, always wearing a thick coat when he went out and never leaving the house without a scarf and gloves. And yet, his immune system said screw you and sent him on an unplanned, very unpleasant stay in the bed. Once again, he was nothing but a burden to his boyfriends. The mattress sank under a new weight, a cool hand gently removing the damp hair from his forehead. It will get better soon, you'll see. We just have to tackle that fever of yours and then it's going to be fine. Shit, their optimism. It's a medical assessment. Trust your doctor, You'll be up and prancing around in no time. But right now it feels like I'm dying. Smiling softly, Shirabu leaned down to press a short kiss to his forehead, the touch making Taichi shiver again. A second later, he was huddled back into the blankets that fell from his shoulders when he moved, unsure if he welcomed the warmth or not. Try to sleep. We'll wake you up for dinner. Eitai's making soup. Despite the sickness clouding his mind, just the mention of Semi's cooking made Taichi salivate. Shirabu huffed a short laugh and patted his hair before he headed out of the room, leaving him alone with the howling wind behind the window. A strange ambiance indeed, activating some primordial reflex in Taichi's core that told him he had to hide from the storm and cold. From danger. And so he did just that, hiding his head under the covers too to hopefully muffle the sound. He was successful only partially, but even that was enough for him to fall asleep. He woke up into complete darkness, drenched in sweat and confused about where he was for a while. The wind was no longer attacking the window, leaving the room in silence, which was, in the next second, interrupted by a loud growling of his stomach. Still slightly dazed, he wondered whether it was already time for dinner and carefully sat up on the bed, shivering when the night air bit into his sweaty skin. He listened for a while, but it didn't seem like anything was moving outside the door. Confused even more, he stood up on unsteady legs and slowly waddled into the living room, chased by hunger and worry. The whole apartment was silent and dark, and even though his eyes were somewhat used to the darkness, he still hissed occasionally when he bumped into furniture. But that wasn't what worried him. Kenjiro said he'll wake me up. Why isn't anyone here? Just as he was about to start panicking when he found even the living room and kitchen empty, his gaze fell on the clock on their oven, the display now reading 2:35. Oh, that's probably why. He stayed staring at the clock, unable to move, as if he suddenly grew roots, only snapped from the strange limbo state by his stomach clenching with hunger. He had to find something, otherwise the cramps wouldn't let him sleep. He knew that all too well. Slightly lightheaded, he moved as quietly as he could to check the fridge, and sure enough, found a small pot with soup. However, just as he was about to put it on the stove, his head spun violently and his knees buckled under him. He flinched when a loud bang echoed off the walls, his first instinct to cover sending him to the floor. As his vision cleared again, his heartbeat skyrocketed when he saw the broken pot and the mess he made. Oh no, no. Taii. He curled into a ball, shielding his head with his arms to soften the blow that was about to come. I'm sorry. A shaky whimper fell from his lips when someone touched his hands. It's okay, sweetheart. Don't be scared. The soft voice pierced through the mist clouding his mind, returning him back from the memory. Right, he was home. Not there. His father wasn't around. He reluctantly peeked from behind the weak shield of his forearms, meeting with the kindest dark brown eyes he knew. Are you okay? What happened? He laid his hand against Taichi's forehead. You are burning up. Why aren't you in bed? Taichi sniffed, his vision blurring despite Hato's voice being softer than ever. I was hungry, but you weren't here, so I thought... I'm sorry, my head spun. I swear it wasn't on purpose, A familiar kind of sorrow flashed across Hayato's face before he pulled him under his chin, gently rubbing his back. I know, it's okay. We didn't want to wake you up when you finally fell asleep, but I guess we should have. He shuddered slightly. I'm just glad you didn't get to heat it up yet. Come on, let's get you back to bed. I'll bring you something to eat in a bit, okay? But the mess... I'll clean it up, don't worry about it. Come on. He no less than picked Taichi up, dragging most of his weight as he slowly led the way back into the second bedroom, the one Taichi occupied for the last 3 days. By the time Hayato helped him lie down, he was shivering and lightheaded, barely able to sit without the pillow support Hayato built behind his back. It's okay, darling, relax. You're safe here. Promise? A feather-light kiss landed on his forehead. I promise. Stay here, okay? I'll be right back. Somehow, Taichi managed to not faint before Hayato came back with a small bowl and a spoon. He couldn't tell what Hayato was feeding him even if they tortured him for it, but the warm liquid soon soothed the ache in his throat and stomach. He fell asleep before he realized it, The last thing he recalled being Hayato's fingers gently combing his hair. Come on, Kenji, don't be such a grump. It's time for fun. Shirabu rolled his eyes, diligently ignoring Semi's nudging and instead focused on stirring the tea for Taichi. As if you didn't know him, Eita. We will have to drag him to get him out. Don't you dare! Taichi would like to chuckle if it wasn't for the exhaustion settled in his whole body. The sickness was slowly taking its toll on him, but at least he no longer felt like fainting at any moment. His fever also went down yesterday, but he was still in no shape to get out of bed for longer periods. It was a shame since the snowstorm 2 days ago covered everything in a thick layer of soft, sparkly white snow just inviting to play in. Which was exactly what Semi and Hayato were about to do now, already wrapping themselves in jackets and scarves. Shirabu was, as always, trying to look uninterested, but Taichi knew him long enough to recognize the twinkle in his eyes. He sighed. He wished he could go out too, if only to spend some carefree time with his boyfriends. But as always, his body decided to betray him, and Shirabu made it clear he wasn't allowed to leave the house for at least another 3 days. Long arms wrapped around his shoulders from behind, the fingers calloused by years of playing guitar caressing his cheek. Don't be sad. You'll get better soon, and then we will take you with us. Yep, I'm sure the snow won't go away for at least a week. Taichi cracked a small smile, subconsciously leaning into Semi's embrace. It's okay, don't worry about me. Have fun. Sure will. But first... He pulled Shirabu's winter jacket from behind his back and threw it over Shirabu's shoulders, sticking a beanie on his head despite his sputtered protests. What? I told you I'm not going with you. Yeah, sure. Come on. Hayato! Yes, dear? Huffing, Shirabu pulled the beanie off, making his heart stick up for a moment. I have a patient here. I don't have time to roll around in the snow like you two. But I'm fine. You can go ahead. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm feeling okay now. And I have tea. You don't have to hold back because of me. Shirabu didn't seem overly convinced at first, but then glanced out of the window and with a sigh put the beanie back on his head, adding a scarf and gloves that Semi handed to him. Alright, but call me immediately if you start to feel sick again, okay? Taichi nodded, a soft smile curling his lips as he watched Semi and Hayato running out like a pair of kids, followed more reluctantly by Shirabu. The apartment fell silent. Taichi huddled a bit deeper into the fluffy blanket wrapped around his shoulders and moved to sit by the window, the cup of tea warming his hands. Unlike in the days prior, the snowflakes were now falling slowly to the ground, creating a peaceful backdrop to Taichi's solitude. He pulled his knees to his chest to conserve warmth, slowly sipping on the tea as the snow continued to fall, and he could swear he heard an occasional excited shout from outside. He wouldn't bet on it, but he wanted to believe it was his partners, enjoying the snow and each other's company. Maybe next time they'll take you with them. Maybe. He shook his head to chase the negative thoughts away, regretting it when the room swayed slightly with him. They wanted him around. He just couldn't go because his health betrayed him again. It was fine. He just needed to stay in bed for a bit longer and... He jumped when the door suddenly burst open, the sound followed by thundering footsteps. Before he managed to realize what was happening, Semi was by his side, snow falling from his clothes as he took the tea from his hands and handed him a pair of gloves. Put them on. Huh? Come on. Completely baffled, Taii did as he was told, hiding his hands in the thick gloves. Semi then took hold of his wrists, positioning his hands so that his palms created a bowl. A bowl into which Hayato then put a big snowball. Ta-da! When you can't go outside, we bring outside to you. That sounded better in your head, didn't it? Hayato threw him an offended glare before turning his attention back to Taii, a wide grin brightening his face. I would say throw it at one of us for the fun of it, but Kenjiro would grumble about it the whole day. Of course I would. It's enough you're tracing it everywhere. He narrowed his eyes at the two. Do you know what water does to wooden floors? Hayato rolled his eyes, and Taii chuckled, carefully rolling the snowball in his hands. Thank you. For nothing. It's the least we can do for you. He leaned down to kiss Taichi's cheek. Get better soon, okay? I miss making snow angels with you. Taichi smiled, his heart fluttering. I'll do my best. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, I have no idea where I was going with this story. It's just a little sweet one-shot for SemiShiraKawaGata and Sickfic on top of that. So that's just how it is. Of course, it is part of the SemiShiraKawaGata storyline. However, yeah, it is what it is. It's a Sickfic. Don't ask for more details about involvement of this story to the storyline. If you have any requests or ideas, the request forum is linked in the video description. See you next time.